How many married couples here sleep in separate bedrooms and why? Story 1. My husband and I sleep in different rooms about 75 of the time. Mainly, it's logistical. My husband gets up at the crack of dawn and goes to bed pretty early. I am the opposite, so this way we don't disturb each other. On weekends we will usually sleep in the same bed cause our schedules are more matched. The other reason is because my husband snores like a freight train and I can't tolerate wearing earplugs every night. I've had friends who were weirded out concerned about our arrangement, but there is really no need. Our relationship is strong and our intimacy is unaffected. Actually, it's better cause we aren't disturbing each other and we can both sleep. Story 2. Yup, she likes it quiet and warm. I like it loud enough to drown out my tinnitus and morgue cold. Best solution is different bedrooms. I've tried everything short of one of those 8 sleep mattresses. Story 3. I snore loudly, she kicks, and what I mean by kicking is sticking her feet out from under the blankets till they're freezing, and then raking her extremely cold toenails down the back of my leg, all in her sleep without waking up, or at least, not waking up until my freaked out screech. Separate bedrooms saved our marriage, seriously. Story 4. My wife and I do. We've been married for 24 years now. The first 19 was spent sleeping in the same room, but our sleep habits are just too different. She likes the ceiling fan on, open window when weather permits, some light in the room and minimal blankets. I like no moving air, complete quietness, complete darkness and heavy blankets. I was constantly waking up from noises and started to sleep on the couch in the middle of the night. Finally, we decided to try sleeping in separate rooms and it's been bliss for both of us. On the weekends, I'll sneak into her bed early in the morning. We also sleep together when traveling or on vacation, since sleep isn't as critical versus work days. Overall, it's been great for our marriage and it hasn't negatively affected our life in the least. Story 5. My parents have done this for the last 40 years or so, and have had separate bedrooms. If they try to sleep in the same room, neither of them gets any sleep. He goes to bed at 10, wakes up at 5:30 a.m., and snores like crazy. She goes to bed at 11 and wakes up at 7 a.m., sleeps like a starfish, flops around all night, and gets up at least twice to go to the bathroom. That said, they get along great and are still happily married. Story 6. Was married 30 years and had separate bedrooms because I'm a light sleeper and he tossed turned and snored. In with my new partner after he passed away and he's the same. We go to bed together to cuddle and watch TV until he falls asleep, then I go to my bed. Story 7. We do. Husband works rotating night shifts, so it makes it hard to adjust each time for both of us. He also stays up much later than me when he's off work. Story 8. My manager and her husband do. Because he snores, I also knew a couple who lived in separate houses that were across the street from each other. Whatever it takes to make your relationship work is fine, unconventional or no. Story 9. We have slept in separate rooms since we had 2 separate rooms to go to, so close to 30 years now. Our son is 21, if that matters. Both of us like our own space and have our respective rooms set up very differently. We're both are restless sleepers, both of us snore. Apparently, I hoard pillows. I currently have 6 on my bed and will steal them from under his head while I am sound asleep. Likewise, I wrap myself in a cocoon and will take all blankets on the bed to do so regardless of whether there's also someone else using those blankets next to me. He likes watching TV in bed, I don't. He sleeps with his leg and arm over something, usually a pillow, but when I was there, him throwing his limbs over me and effectively holding me down while I was asleep completely freaked me out. I like it dark, cold and quiet. He wants it warmer, isn't bothered by light, and needs noise to go to sleep, which will keep me awake. He will stay up all night when he can. I need to be asleep by 10:30 p.m. If we wanted a good night's sleep, we couldn't share a room to sleep in. The 2 separate rooms have never prevented any other sort of bedroom activity. Story 10. We are married, but before, when we were dating, we had to sleep separate for a few reasons. Bear in mind that we only had 2 queen-sized beds. 1. I have insomnia, often related to stress, and I have a very stressful job plus sleep light. I use earplugs and a sound machine to help me not hear all the tiny noises in the house, but if I wake up, I'm wide awake too. He was on night shift and on the opposite schedule as me, so it was easy to disturb the other while trying to wind down and go to bed. 3. When we were sleeping in the same bed, I would frequently have to wake him up because he is so active while dreaming. Him talking, legs paddling as he runs in his sleep, yelling, violent jerking. Talking. It was about 2 years we slept separate and we didn't mind it at all. In fact, our friends and family minded way more than we did. When we sold our house and moved, we bought a super fancy king-sized bed that allows us to sleep together no problem. I still have to wake him up, but I've gotten to where I fall back asleep more easily. His jerking and moving isn't what will trigger me to now, it's when he's yelling or talking loudly. It also helps we are on the same-ish sleep schedule now too. Story 11. I've been sleeping on the couch for about 5 months now because of my newborn. He has a bassinet that swings over my side of the bed, so I'm in the way when it comes around to late-night random nursing. Not that my wife would ever admit that. I've been thinking about getting a cot or something more appropriate for the time being. Story 12. I'm a heavy sleeper, loud snorer. I'm also a bartender and sometimes finish work 34 am. She's a light sleeper and likes her bed like a straitjacket. Our relationship improved so much once the separate bed started. We take the occasional nap together. Story 13. I'm not married but in a relationship and we live together. Generally we do go to sleep together, but for a few reasons I may go sleep in my chair in the office instead, whether it be because she's snoring that night or if I have bad acid reflux. Story 14. We sleep separately so we each get sleep. I'm 38. my husband is 46 and we have shared a bed for only 1 year because we lived with family and had to. But now that we are in our own place again we have separate rooms. He gets up at 3 a.m. for work and I have the crib with me. I've gotten up with a kid or baby for the last 14 years. He works in concrete and needs sleep, and I never wanted him to wake me or a baby up, especially if I had just gotten us back to sleep before his alarm goes off. We have 4 kids, so it doesn't hinder anything. Plus, I hate cuddling and just want to sleep. The year we shared a bed was brutal. I would end up in the living room with the baby so I could sleep and feed her. Also, we both snore. Story 15. Have always imagined I'd have separate rooms from the partner, but still sleep in the same bed most nights. People prefer different things, covers, temperature and decor. It kinda just makes sense. Story 16. Insomniac with OCD and my boyfriend is a slob who also sleeps lightly. It just made sense that I had a room I can be my little tweaker self late into the night while he can get good uninterrupted sleep in his pig pen of a room. Living together is hard and we used to fight constantly about our room. Now we fight significantly less. Story 17. No married, but might as well be 6-year partnership. No plans to separate, ever lots of reasons to sleep in separate rooms. I snore. She can't sleep through it. I have a hard time falling asleep without a TV on. Natural bodily functions disrupting. Dogs in each other's beds results in a concert of loud barking. We have 4 small dogs. Some like to sleep with me. Some like to sleep with her. Freedom to choose entertainment. We want to fall asleep to tossing turning. Bathroom trips are disruptive. Conflicting comfort preferences. Temperature, fans, windows, etc. Opposing schedules. Overall quality of sleep. There's nothing wrong with it. If anything, sleeping in separate rooms has helped preserve our relationship and continues to do so indefinitely. That being said, when we're traveling, earplugs and sleep masks are a saving grace too. Believe me, it does more to preserve a partnership than it may appear. It's not distance for the sake of separation. It's healthy distance for the sake of sanity. Story 18. My husband and I have very a long time. Main reason is he is a very light sleeper. He wakes up every time I turn over and likes the temp freezer cold. We sleep in our own room so that he can get a good night's sleep. I miss him in our bed, but I also understand sleep is important. Intimacy isn't affected at all, and it's probably better for our relationship when he's not exhausted from a lack of sleep all the time. Story 19. My parents. My dad is quite efsical when he sleeps. Day job as a police officer. I've heard him yell as if he is chasing someone down. He has slapped mom a few times. Funniest thing I've had him yell is book EM. It's just safer if they don't sleep in the same bed. Story 20. My wife and I have our own separate rooms. Yet, we have intense love for each other. We of course, do visit each other often for nocturnal activities. We hug afterwards in each other's arms and then go to our separate rooms. Reason we both snore and can't sleep properly when together. That's why, and it's great so far. Story 21. We used to. When we were in an apt, the bed wasn't big enough for the both of us to sleep comfortably. Now that we moved into a house, we're back in the same bed. Absolutely nothing changed while we weren't in the same bed. Honestly, we were both in a better mood because we got to sleep. What's funny though is I never told anyone except you guys now, I guess because I was afraid people would judge or be concerned. Story 22. Sleep in separate houses. Both divorced with own assets, and older teenagers. Not going to mess up their routines and friendship groups. Once bitten twice shy. We really enjoy our sleepovers though. Story 23. When I'm really tired I snore loudly. Or our bodies aren't regulating temperature the same sometimes. I'd say it's only 2 to 3 days a week we sleep in different rooms. Nothing wrong with it though. Fair past that honeymoon stage to where we need to be around each other. 247. Story 24. Married 40 years. Been sleeping in separate rooms for about 11 years. I broke my nose as a kid and it wasn't set properly. It healed poorly and the deformity can't be fixed at this late date. I snore like a freight train, and over the years my husband has become a very light sleeper, so this works for us. Story 25. My wife and I sometimes just want our space. I respect it. One room has a TV and comfy bed that can only comfortably house one person, our sick bed. Sometimes we just want to be comfy and alone, and that's normal. Doesn't interfere with our love, it bolsters it. Story 26. My parents did this, but then they were immigrants who had an arranged marriage, and I just feel their relationship was not like what I see in the West. I think this will have to be in the table for me should I ever live with someone again. I just am too into my own routine to change it for anyone these days. Story 27. Married since 1989 and just started sleeping in different rooms this year. He just got a CPAP machine and it's super quiet. I tend to go to bed and turn off the lights and go to sleep. He likes to go to bed later than me, then watch TV in bed until he goes to sleep, and I was just tired of the disruption. So much better now. Story 28. My mom and her husband actually live in 2 separate houses. They met later in life and were both set in their ways, how they like things done, decorated, cleaned, etc. They lived together for a few years before they drove each other mad. Now they live a few minutes down the road from each other. My dad had his super modern house with a pool and my mom had her cottage on land with a dog. They've never been happier. Story 29. Husband snores. I like to read late. It's perfect. It hasn't affected our life or intimacy at all. In fact, it's made us closer, and I love crawling into his bed for cuddles in the morning. We have an open door policy, of course. No, this is my room. They're both our bedrooms. It just works. And after 14 years together and 8 married, this sleeping arrangement poses no risks to our foundation. I live of it. Story 30. Different circadian rhythms. And while I am on the light end of the normal range for sleepers, my spouse has a very hard time getting to sleep, staying asleep, and going back to sleep. His whole family struggles to the point his brother had to put a piece of tape over the little red light on the smoke alarm because it was keeping him up. Story 31. My grandparents slept in different rooms. My grandpa's snoring would shake the roof. You could hear it in every room in the house. Not saying that's the only reason, but that was the most obvious one. Story 32. Happily married. And we haven't slept in the same room in 6-ish years. He snores and I roll over too much. He is a very light sleeper and I sleep like the dead. He's fine with the cats being all over him while he sleeps. I can't handle more than one cat being within 3 feet of me when I'm trying to fall asleep. I used to have to wake up at 430 to 500 every day. He can sleep until 730 most days. We both hate being touched cuddled held while we sleep at night. We were both suffering when we slept in the same bed. Our sleep quality and quantity was trash, and we were both irritable as a result. I moved into my room office guest bedroom during a bout of sickness and just never went back. We are considering either a split king or 2 double beds pushed together when we finally have to consolidate bedrooms due to possible children, but that's a fair ways out. Ideally, a very large bed made of 2 separate mattresses with a literal section of heavy stage curtain separating us would be the perfect setup in a single room. We still have plenty of quality time together, and we have the occasional mid-afternoon contact nap when we're in the mood. It just works best for us to be separate at night. Story 33. Separate rooms here. I tossed and turned too much. I sometimes get up to pee. Sometimes I just can't sleep. I snore a little bit. Plus we have 2 adorable little dogs that love to wake me up in the middle of the night with kisses, and once I'm up, I can't go back to sleep, so it's just so much easier to sleep in your own bed and your own room. I love my wife, I love my life, but I love my bed even more. Totally works for us, and I have no problem with it. Sometimes I think society does though. Story 34. My so and I have separate bedrooms just because we have different schedules. I'm a night owl and he's an early. Works much better if we have our own spaces to do our own thing when we want. We still spend plenty of time together, and I'd say the time we do spend together is higher quality. Honestly, when he proposed this several years ago, I was greatly opposed just cause of social norms, but now I can't go back. It's so much easier. Story 35. We do. My wife doesn't sleep well, up and down all night, which bothers me. She also sleeps very lightly, so any move I make wakes her up. Just easier for both of us to have separate rooms. Story 36. My wife and I are compatible in many ways, but sleep is not one of them. She works till midnight and is up around 9. I go to bed at 9 and wake up at 530. She likes to fall asleep with a TV I need dead dark and quiet. She gives off so much heat when she sleeps and I like it cool. I like to starfish in bed and move around a lot during the night. It's also nice to have our own rooms to decorate. Story 37. My hubby and I have our own bedrooms and bathrooms and very clean and have to have my living area in the best of shape. My sheets must stay tucked even while I sleep. I don't move much when I sleep and my fan must be on. My husband on the other hand likes a little chaos. Naturally chaotic to me. Comfortable to him, he insists he has to untuck corners and let his legs hang off the bed, so that often means he takes all the blanket from my side and absolutely no fan. Plus he snore very loudly and am a light sleeper. We are complete opposite when it comes to sleeping. Story 38. When I was married, we had to sleep in separate beds because I'm much heavier and my wife would roll towards me, which was bad for her back as she had previously fractured her lower spine. Story 39. We just have completely different sleep preferences. He likes the room colder than I do with multiple fans and soft music. I prefer silence and no fans. On top of that, I snore, and he moves around and talks in his sleep a lot. We snuggle and whatnot in one bed or another, but we actually go to sleep separately so that we can sleep soundly. Story 40. My husband and I sleep separately. I am a sensitive light sleeper, and everything wakes me despite sleeping with earplugs. My husband is a somewhat combative sleeper who flops around at night and will sometimes wake up with his head at the foot of the bed. I have no idea how that happens. He's a bed hog, doesn't matter the size of the bed. He snores, which drives me crazy and keeps me awake. If I roll him over, he's back to snoring before I can fall asleep. He also requires 5 loud alarms to wake up, and he's up before me on the weekdays, and my early days tend to be on weekends as our work schedules are not the same. For the sake of our relationship and my sleep needs, we have separate bedrooms. I can barely tolerate bed sharing on vacation, and if we are booking a hotel, we will book a room with 2 beds. Story 41. My future spouse and I will eventually have separate rooms. It's so we can control the aesthetic and have space for our own crafts and media, playing space and clothes and everything. Story 42. My grandma and grandpa lived at opposite ends of a small town. My GF of 10 years lived 20 minutes away for the same reason. Would be split up if we lived together. Story 43. Apparently couples sleep in separate bedrooms in Japan. I asked someone why they didn't share the bed, and the best reply I got was that it was weird. Story 44. Checking in yes for all the top reasons. Husband snores. I like freezing cold room temp and he doesn't. We are very happy. I am on team normalize sleeping apart. Story 45. I slept in a different room from my wife for about 2 years. Started because we had 2 small children and it was just easiest at that time for the kids to just co-sleep. I prefer to sleep alone and especially not with kids, so I just got in habit of sleeping in the other room. Looking back, sleeping separately was a pretty major contributor, or at least a symptom of some major issues in our marriage. It eased some things but really did put extra distance between us. We are better now and sleep together again. I see the pros and cons still, but it's easy to slip away from each other if you aren't intentional. Story 46 Until we can figure out how to get my boyfriend snoring under control, unless I fall asleep before him. One of us sleeps on the couch in the office. I can't sleep when he snores, it won't work. Story 47 We just started sleeping in separate bedrooms. My husband snores very loud and has period limb movement disorder, meaning he's constantly moving for hours during his sleep. I suffered for years with awful sleep before I told him I needed a different room. Story 48 Wife and I sleep in different rooms. Started out because I snored, that got better, but I have a bad back and the mattress is terrible. We occasionally sleep together for staying close. I visit her room and she visits mine, if you know what I mean. It works for us. Story 49 We do. He snores and sweats a lot, and I kick in my sleep. We are both also bad for fighting over blankets. At one point, I nearly developed insomnia from sharing a bed with him, but it's much better now that we have separate rooms. Story 50 Yeah, we both sleep with one son each as they get scared by themselves, but if we put them together it's chaos and no one gets any sleep, so one parent each son. Story 51 A combination of these. My wife is very sensitive to light, temperature and noises at night. My wife farts and I swear the paint is peeling because of her farts. My wife has had insomnia most of her life. She has trouble going to sleep and staying asleep. I have sleep apnea. Started CPAP 3 months back and my wife always comments about how quiet I am now when we sleep in the same room. We have slightly offset schedules and the space helps maximize how much sleep we each get. Story 52 Started out 2 years ago whilst I was going through chemo and severely immunocompromised. Even now in remission we've carried on, mostly as it helps us both sleep better. I'm a light off, no distraction sleeper and wife is tfipadaudiobuk kinda gal, so it's been great. Also the dog likes to sleep on her bed so he's happy too. I was worried at first it would cause distance, but I think the opposite now. 20 years wedding anniversary in a few months and would say we're closer than ever. Story 53 Sometimes, we have our big bed that we both normally start out in, and we each have a single bed in our respective home offices, so if one of us is being particularly disruptive or we are working odd hours then we have a place to escape to. There's nothing wrong with it. Sleep is important. Story 54 I snore, turn sides constantly, like to check my phone until I fall asleep. My wife is a very light sleeper and the slightest noise or light wakes her up and then has trouble falling asleep again. Changed rooms and we are both happy and he is great. We do sleep together occasionally, mostly naps, but we have a sleep divorce and made our actual marriage better. Edit, spelling. Story 55 My husband snores so loudly I cannot sleep well. Along with my own sleep struggles, I was not getting a good night's sleep at all. I moved out of our shared bedroom for what was supposed to be a couple of nights so I could get some solid sleep. However, I never went back. I have managed to have much better night's sleep, and I've even managed full nights of sleep, something I haven't been able to have in many years. Story 56 My supervisor and his wife, as he snores you have to do whatever it takes so that your married life works fine, whether it is a usual thing to do or not. Story 57 We have an ASD kid who cannot sleep by himself, waking up a lot, crying for us, etc. Husband snores, disturb the kid cries, disturb the husband. Sleeping separately has saved our sanity. I co-sleep with our son in his room and husband sleeps in our room. Story 58 Currently separate because of work schedules and a toddler in a one-bedroom apartment. I have a set schedule and toddler is sleeping well but will occasionally wake up at night for a cuddle or a pacifier. My husband has started getting weird hours since he's gone from working less than 40 hours a month to now working full-time. So he sleeps in the living room so his alarm doesn't wake us up. Story 59 Married 47 years here, Army retired. The 8 years he 30 years and was activated were the best nights of my life. Peaceful. I could vacuum at M8 night. So after 30 years of making me want to jump off a ledge with god-awful apnea, snoring like a rhino, he's on a CPAP now. We like a dark room, ceiling fan on high, and good pillows. We barely know each other's there unless a light goes on, so I can do either one. Story 60 For 50 of the time. Currently pregnant, and my dog likes to disrupt my sleep, so hell sleep with him in the other room so that I can be unbothered till he goes to work in the morning. Story 61 Yeah, my wife sleeps in a separate section because our sleep schedules are different and 2 dogs sleep in the bed, making it too crowded to get a good night's sleep. Now 1 dog sleeps in each bedroom and we sleep more. Story 62 Married. Mostly sleep in the same room, but there have been a few times, like when the kids were really young, that we switched to separate rooms just for logistics. Sometimes we will if one of us has a cold or gets up really early. It's just nice to let your partner sleep if they need it. Story 63 I work nights and my wife snores like a chainsaw. She says I do the same, but it affected me more because I'm trying to get to sleep in the morning before she wakes up. Story 64 Currently, young children is the reason we're in separate bedrooms. It started off with hubby sleeping in the toddler's room because she was scared and getting up 4 times a night. We also had a newborn that was still overnight feeding. We just chose to have him bunk with a toddler so everyone sleeps. Except toddler is about to turn 5 and newborn is about to turn 2, so maybe one day we'll figure it out. Pray for us. Story 65 Not married, but I hope I find someone who is open to this idea. Best case scenario, better sleep, better personal space boundaries, and I assume less arguments. Worst case scenario, we act more like casual FWB roommates than an actual couple. Story 66 My wife and I do occasionally 2 nights ago I said, honey, I'm gonna sleep in the guest bedroom tonight. I'm gassy. She said, oh good, I am too, haha. Story 67. My wife and I have slept in separate rooms for 20 years, the entire time we've been married. 'Cause snoring on both of our parts at different times in our marriage. Story 68. We recently started sleeping in separate rooms. Really it's just a bed issue. He loves our bed, I hate it, so after a while, I just started sleeping somewhere else, and found it to be very comfortable. We didn't intend for it to be permanent, but so far it's been great. Story 69. I have dated so many snorers and hate wearing earplugs every night. Plus, I sleep like when it's just me. I never want to share a bedroom. Introduces too much stress. I also don't like cuddling for more than a few minutes. Story 70. My in-laws do. My father-in-law sleeps 3 or less hours, often sitting in a recliner. Mother-in-law needs 8 hours of sleep. They're awesome. I hope after 40 years I have what they have, but they don't always sleep in same bed. Story 71. We sleep together ATM. But when he starts doing shifts that end at midnight when his work moves down the road, he said he will be sleeping in the little bedroom so he doesn't wake me. I hope he doesn't, but the gesture is nice. Story 72. I'm a light sleeper and my wife snores sometimes. I also have misophonia, so I don't get much choice about sleeping in another room if I want a decent sleep. If I start snoring she will have to gently wake me, but then I can't get back to sleep. Our relationship is strong and we're fine. It's just a practical thing. Story 73. My wife and I do. I have a CPAP, but it makes me super bloated the next day because I'm swallowing so much air. I didn't notice any improvement in my sleep either. The mask also makes my neck cramp up. I miss sleeping next to her, and I miss our bed. Story 74. Snoring is an issue, and different sleep schedules. No shame in that. Starting out in the same bedroom is always nice, and the option to move if any of the above is a factor is great. No one admits this, but it's very, very common. Story 75. I have a friend who has an entirely separate bedroom from her husband. I always thought it was non-traditional. Now I have a toddler. My husband sleeps downstairs on the couch. BC. He has long workdays. I'm a som. So it was not by choice but mostly for survival. My toddler sleeps me in the bedroom. We might all sleep together like once a week. Story 76. My partner and I sleep in different beds. She needs to have her back supported, which our current mattress does not do. She has some medical issues. And we are both insomniacs. As it turns out, when we sleep separately we both sleep better. I miss sleeping next to her, but her health and comfort supersede my needs. I'm just glad she's getting her rest and support whilst we figure out what our next steps are together. Story 77. Been married for 3 years. We started sleeping in separate rooms right before we were officially married. He tends to snore and I twitch, so we end up waking each other up every time we tried to sleep together. We also have different schedules in the morning, so it's always worked out for us. Most times when I share with friends coworkers about our sleeping arrangement, they end up jealous. Story 78. My wife and I have for the last decade. It is amazing. She goes to bed earlier and wakes earlier. We have a newborn and 5 years old, so this is way more conducive to her getting uninterrupted stretches of sleep. It is the best demo. We sleep so good when able. We have separate bedrooms as well. I wouldn't change it. Story 79. Men who snore tend to snore louder as they get older. I would have no problem sleeping in a different bedroom than my husband if I had to choose between that and never getting a good night's sleep. Story 80. He snores so bad it's like sleeping next to a motorbike. I did 10 years. I bought a fitness watch which told me I was getting 20 minutes of REM a night. Now I get almost 2 hours of REM a night and I feel so much more alive. Story 81. We don't sleep in separate rooms, but we sure as have our own blankets. It's perfect. She prefers a weighted blanket, and I just can't sleep with them. We're both happy campers. Story 82. Not me, but I have a girlfriend whose husband is a surgeon. On nights before he has surgery days, he sleeps in a separate room. He wants and needs to get the best quality sleep possible for his patients. I really respect and admire that. Story 83. I don't want to feel the bed move when someone rolls over. So much as a sniffle will wake me up. Separate beds for over 15 years. Sleeping together has no benefit that outweigh the sleep you'll get alone. Story 84. My husband and I have very different sleep patterns. I go to bed and wake up early. He goes to bed later. I also move a ton in my sleep as well as talk in my sleep. My husband hits the snooze button at least 5 times in the morning and I get up right with my alarm. I like a cold room with a fan on full blast. He prefers a warm room with lots of covers and no fan. We slept in the same bed for the first 4 years of living together, and ultimately, one of us ended up in a different room more times than not. We just decided it's better if we are in separate beds and rooms, and honestly, it has made our marriage that much better, being well rested and having our space. Story 85. We do separate beds, same room. He rolls and moves around and I'm a super light sleeper. It's the best of both worlds for us. Unless I'm super annoyed or can't sleep, then I go to the guest room. It's worked for us for 8 years. Story 86. I go to bed at 7:30 p.m. and wake up at 3 a.m. for work. She gets home at 9 p.m. from work and has her evening routine of reading and stuff. We have an extra bedroom that I now sleep in. It was weird at first, but we both now like it, due to our schedules. Even on weekends I sleep in spare room. It's just way more comfortable, and I snore ill. We got 2 dogs that would both sleep in bed with us, and there was no room lol. So now she sleeps with the dogs and got lots of room. We still have great and things seem good. Story 87. Yes, first 22 years were same bed. It changed during the pandemic when we got a lab. Despite a lifetime of being a cat person and being indifferent to our first dog, my wife really bonded with our lab. I think our kids leaving for college also around this time figure heavily. Anyway, she took to letting the dog sleep with us, and that proved problematic for both of us because the dog took up a lot of space and our bed was high enough that she didn't want the dog hurting itself getting up and down. We had an incident with our first dog seriously injuring itself falling off a bed. Sadly, our dog passed away unexpectedly a few months ago and we have not reverted to sleeping in the same bed. I think we both got used to having our own space and I guess sleep better sleeping separately. Story 88. We do sometimes, but more often than not we sleep together. I've had a few back surgeries and soft beds hurt my back in the morning. While she swears hard beds hurt her back, 95 of the time I'll sleep in the soft bed so we can sleep together, but sometimes if I'm having a day with my back I'll just go sleep on the hard bed. Story 89. He snores and I toss and turn light sleeper. Our relationship is amazing and we spend the whole evening together until it's time to sleep. Then I come right in and say good morning. We are really only apart for the unconscious part of sleeping. I have to explain to so many people that separate bedrooms doesn't mean there's a problem. It's actually made our relationship better because we both get some rest. Story 90. We've been married almost 40 years and have slept in separate bedrooms for probably half of that. I snore and she's a very light sleeper. Bottom line is we both are better people when we get a good night's sleep. Story 91. It's fun to sleep with someone is a fairy tale most people get over by 30 when they've actually done it for a while. Okay, I just like to while I sleep. Story 92. Thanks for asking this. Seeing so many other healthy couples sleeping separately brings me some comfort. We're not alone. We sleep separately. He snores and likes to sleep on the floor. I have chronic pain and flop around like a fish all night. We've been married for 20 years and are very happy.